Okay. 1, 2, 3.
3. Hey guys.
Guys. Would you like to introduce us?
This is MJ and Marie. We're two sissies. You already know us. You already love us. We're back to talk
And
about the Kravis wedding special because you guys asked for it. We were not really in the mood to come on here and watch it and talk about it, but then because so many of you voted yes on the poll on my story, it did put some pep in our step.
yes, for sure. Major pep in our step. So
Yeah.
without further ado, let's fucking play it. We're about to start the show. We have seen about the first 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some familiarity coming from our insight in the first 20 minutes.
Perfectly said.
And then Michelle, thank you. You had something to say because we noticed that it's the whole episode is sponsored by
Zola, the wedding startup or whatever. I guess they're not really. What point does a startup transcend the status of a startup and it's like a full company?
I don't know. Maybe it's at a certain amount of like profit or revenue or a certain amount of fucking business shit.
Well, whatever status Zola now has, it's like a wedding company service, and it sponsored this episode, and it just made me think like, how does the matchmaking process, no pun intended, like work with these sponsorships? Like, do they have some kind of database of like what are the, leading companies with maybe the best marketing budgets to reach out to pitch a sponsorship with? Or do those companies seek out the Kardashians? Like, which comes first? I'm sure people that work in marketing have these answers or can suspect, but I just thought it was interesting.
I bet it's like a network. I bet that's you get yourself into a network of like I bet it's like because I work in affiliate and like that we have like a network of vendors that like we that we work with basically. And so like it's probably something like that, and you probably get into different levels of ad space kind of. I don't know. Or maybe not. But I'm sure there's like relationships built between certain brands and certain networks and shit.
See, that is something I wish I had said in my interview with Complex, actually, because I was like struggling to explain the idea of these like people dropping into North's TikToks. And what it comes down to is that capitalism, modern industry enterprise is built on partnership. Like social media business is partnerships. And so they're following that model even with social media content, and that's what's powerful about it. It's like, Northwest X Ice Spice, like that is a model that is the way the world goes round. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's it's like so inherent to like influencer marketing. It's like such a capitalistic structure, even like on the granular level. So it looks like somebody's just in a social media video, but it's actually like a brand partnership.
Yes. I think probably business always has functioned in a relational way, right? But like, because like networks are so much more complex and like expansive now, it's even more in your face and exaggerated, like the figureheads of these businesses, which the Kardashians are. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like a caricature. It's like a cartoonish representation of these like business structures.
Yes. Right. Like that's why Sam Sanders and I, with our Vulture conversation, he said, like, why is it so much easier to hate the Kardashians for representing like the worst of late capitalism? Like, what is it about the Kardashians when like they're not the only ones?
Yeah.
And it's because they're the most public and visible and curating of that lifestyle. Like they've just like almost compressed themselves into the like logo of like capitalism. Yeah.
With like a cute little bikini.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, I think I'm like rambling now, but yes, basically like it's never just a picture. Like it's never just a TikTok. Like it's an exemplar of like how like partnerships are working in the end.
That's what's crazy about just like I noticed this today actually, how like ad language is so condensed. It's actually so that's what the Kardashians do too. It's like simple language that actually means a lot. Like every single sentence, like ad copy is fucking hard to write. Like,
yes.
And what comes out is like, eat better. But like, there's so much in there. And like that plus an image, like that means so much in like those two things. Like, and I forgot
semiotics, baby. Well, also the fact that philosophy, one of the hardest things for me, like first year Sarah Lawrence College, like taking this one philosophy class that everyone like wanted to take, and it was so exciting to be there. And then I was like, wait, this is hard as fuck, because we had to explicate really dense text, and it was into like, you had to simplify these incredibly complex statements, and she would make you squeeze like the most fundamental like interpretation of meaning out of these like crazy fucking sentences. And like I kind of think it's similar to what you're saying about ad copy.
Yeah, dude, because it's like it just like means there's so many ideas like packed into one thing.
Yeah, and it goes back to compression, the idea of like a logo is essentially like a bunch of messaging compressed,
right? And that's what social media videos are,
and the essence of like just like new media is like ever accelerating, so like compression is like ideal to save space. But anyway, all right, let's go. So Kravis is in Vegas and Courtney is like actually drunk. You can tell she's actually drunk.
Totally.
Are you allowed, I'm not even trying to be like a gotcha viewer right now, but are you allowed to like have an open drink if there's a driver driving?
I don't think so, but also maybe Vegas has different rules. True. Oh, no, when it's considered a limo.
Right.
Yes. For some reason, like we all know that, like that's like a federal law. They're like, if it's a fucking limo.
The way they're saying this was a wedding, this is also a wedding, it reminds me of like how sometimes I get where I'm like, and this is a medium, and Skims is a medium, and like Kim Kardashian's body is a medium, and like just like calling everything mediums. And what's interesting is I think what we're going to go on to discover is that they really do treat their weddings as mediums,
right?
Like different vibes, different content, different messages.
Exactly. It's so rich people like, this is crazy.
No, totally. Wait, will you pause? Because I want you to say that's what you said with our first watching of this. The lady, the meme of like the lady with the bag on her head.
That meme, and she's like in front of like the refrigerator aisle, and she has like a bag of chips on her head, and she's like,
that like, is Kravis energy. Also the like Frank Sinatra playing in the car, because like they really like they really curate like their moments, which is something also that we talked about the first time we watched this. So I guess we can just keep watching and get to that.
I wish that the room sucks.
I know, but it sucks in like the best Vegas way.
Right.
You know, like very institutional, because in this sense, wait, we can pause for one sec. I mean, this is one of the industries of the city. This is one of the like calling cards of the city, is like just like their manufactured chapels all over. So the like institutionalized rooms are weirdly charming in their own Vegas hyper commodified way, you know?
Right. No, totally.
So Courtney is looking into she's excited. She's got her bouquet of red roses, and she's looking into the liminal space.
Yes.
Pause. Sorry. And just like how Courtney's dying right now because Elvis called her Chloe. And like, it's funny to Travis as well. And like, oh, it's like everyone kind of knows subconsciously, like, oh, this is going to be a moment for the stories later. But like in that moment, sister humor takes over. And it's like, I need to call Chloe in the middle of this wedding because like this is so much funnier and like deeper to her as a sister that it's happening to.
I need to call my sister now.
Right. And everyone else is like, oh, okay, yeah, but like, no. It's like,
no, we're gonna my sister.
Yeah.
And she's gonna like fully enter this moment with us.
Right.
That's like what people don't get about calling your sister. Like, it's not, let me like give you privacy during this phone call. It's like, no, she's here now.
Right.
All of us.
Like she's joining the door. It's opened. Sister time is now going to be integrated for sure.
Yes, and you must give her the same amount of respect as you would give somebody with the physical presence here.
Exactly. You know what's actually kind of funny? I'm reading Kardashian Confidential right now for book research. Mm-hmm. And it was published in 2010. It was basically like a 250-page glossy brochure for their brand. Like clearly they saw it come up, was really happening. I wonder like really what the numbers were for them in 2010. Because obviously it's 3 years into the running of the show. And basically like there's a whole anecdote, I should tell like my followers about this, where Courtney or Chloe, one of them talks about how they get confused for each other. And like when fans come up, they call each other Chloe or Courtney. So that's like relevant to this moment of Elvis doing that. That's probably why she thought it was so funny, because I guess that's like always happened to them.
It's interesting because like that feels like it would happen the least. Or no, maybe because it's like Kim's the center. So then like you get like the two like
right
peripheral ones like mixed up.
And then it kind of goes to that idea of like people viewing them as like, and this is where they get diminished as well, like this gaggle of girls.
Mm-hmm. Right, totally.
And like this idea that they're a package, so like the contents of the package can be interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. I'm at 457.
I'm at 509.
Okay, I'll go up a little bit. First of all, like the fact that like the Vegas stuff was shot on only iPhone, and it has like a very like actual like rock and roll documentary vibe, and like that's like, as they say later, like the rock and roll medium.
Mm-hmm.
And then this idea of like the decision making of like black and white, and then they like go over all the footage together in bed, like that's like the red thread is like that was probably them being like, okay, the brand is like cool and it's intimate, like PDA is their thing, so we'll be in bed with Kravis, you know.
Really? For sure. And what were you saying about how like this episode is like their time to be like experimental and like
right. Well, that actually gets to a thought that was just emerging for me, which also with the black and white, that's like the neutral, because that's like the red thread going through is like they're in bed taking us through all this different footage of their different weddings. So the black and white is also like the home base while they experiment with like genre and like style and like aesthetic with all the other weddings, aka mediums, because next is the Santa Barbara one, as we know. And it's very like, so like as they even say, like Vegas is like rock and roll, like drunk, like true romance. And then Santa Barbara is like elegant LA, like kind of like there's kind of like a Chicano like aesthetic to it too, with like the lowrider car. And like then Italy is its like epic Dolce thing. So like they really just like, I want to ask you once we're further in, like to talk about what you learned of genre in film studies. So we'll get to that. But I almost think there's different genres happening, but we'll play for now. And like, because oh yeah, this is when I realized like, oh, like they're really able to experiment. Like there's soundtracks in every medium of the wedding. Like there's like, is this Al Green right now playing? Yeah.
They also like know that like people need more stimulus.
Yes.
You know?
That's the value of what they're able to bring to like the larger Kardashian brand. It's like with their being a unit running around just doing PDA and all these different like forms, they can just take you through this hyper visual journey.
For sure.
And
you can kind of like play around with them because they're not going to give you much content wise. So like they're the like ground to like, yeah, they're the experimental ground to try different things for the brand. And they literally, that's what in the Santa Barbara moment, they were, even though they're running around performing like this PDA and like these like this like myth of themselves as like an iconic like new media couple, like they still were like, wait, what do we do? They needed direction about like, they didn't know who was going to marry them or like when it was going to happen. Sure. So there's still the like, we show up and like a moment's curated for us and then we live it. We just like get directed through it. Yes. One other thing I'll say, I'm at the part in the black and white where they're looking at the photo book right now. On 742, but I will also say this entire episode, from what at least we saw and probably will continue to be once we surpass that moment, and every episode really of the Kardashians on Hulu is basically giving us
BTS on how images were made. There's no real central conflict. There's no like drive. Right now, just like cut to like the PR photographer guy like in bed with them. Like that's what this whole episode is gonna be. It's like just like sort of like the actions that went into the photos that we saw, or the sharing of photos we haven't gotten to see yet.
Right, just like behind the scenes.
It's literally all behind the scenes. But the true behind the scenes, or behind the scenes as we once knew it before, was like behind the scenes. This person passed out, like, well, I guess Courtney like passed out kind of like onto the floor in Vegas, but like there's still like stories of the scenes, but this is like the scene.
I mean, that's very like
hyper real.
Yeah, and like it's very just like reference without a center, like you were saying.
Wait, where are you at now?
5:54. Should I go forward? I'm
at 9:11. They're in Italy now, and now it's like White Lotus like filter. That's what we said last time too. Like they were probably like, "Fuck yeah!" Like when White Lotus went viral.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably why they gave so much time. I mean, there was probably already going to be a lot of screen time devoted to Italy because it was like the most branded wedding with like high fashion. But like I'm sure they gave a lot of this time and they filtered it this way to like kind of catch the zeitgeist on that. Like the Santa Barbara wedding was legitimately like just for the pictures, that courthouse wedding.
Sure, it was just like a mini Instagram like photo shoot.
And this is when we're reminded, like, oh, Kim is a secondary character in this story.
It's always really jarring to see her as that.
Yeah. You know, one thing I think about a lot is Kim's posture. I do find myself thinking about her posture a lot.
Like it being good or bad?
It being good and being a necessity. She can't ever slouch.
For sure.
You know?
She has to always be like ready for the camera.
Yeah. It's ready for the camera, and it's like, well, if you have to, even if you don't you even know there's not going to be a camera on you in that rare time, like you can't slack, because then you're going to lose the like you got to stay accountable to it for your own good for all the other times you are on camera, you know?
Crazy.
Like if a tree falls in a forest, like you still need your posture kind of thing. I'm at 12.
We hear Courtney saying that every time they stay in this place, they stay at Dolce & Gabbana's house.
Which you had an interesting thought on that last time.
Oh, how like that's like there's no way every single time. Or maybe there is, but it's just like it's just like a way, like this whole thing is sponsored by Dolce & Gabbana, this whole entire wedding. So it's just like such a high scale integrated way of like what they've always done, of like whenever they're working with a brand, it's like their favorite thing in the whole world.
Yes. I have a file on my computer that I've been meaning to do for like really since the account started, of like favorite thing ever or something. And it's because every time from the beginning on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they had a new partnership or a new like product placement in a commercial, in like a episode, they'll always introduce it by being like, I've been a fan of Cosmo magazine forever. This is a dream come true to get to like do this feature for Cosmo magazine. And I don't even know if they've done that, but it's always the favorite thing, the thing they've always wanted to do when it's neither selling. So like Marie's point is kind of like the Dolce & Gabbana, like hanging out at their house all the time is like very fitting with like this like framework they do when they sell shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm at 13:26. Right. I'm at the part where Kim goes into the castle and she's like, oh, this is great for pictures. And then someone was like, you're going to see so many backgrounds. And it just, again, reminds us the whole content of this episode is just strategizing for pictures. And it's like, yeah, those are going to be great backgrounds. But it's interesting that they're openly kind of like, we're seeing what the most insight we're getting to their interior lives is probably very real strategizing for the production of it all.
Totally. You really get a sense of like their relationship to the camera, of like they truly don't notice they're there anymore.
Yeah.
Like I was just thinking that with Kim, and Kim especially feels like she's off duty because it's not her, she's not the center of the episode, but like,
yeah,
it's just like crazy to see them so like, you really do feel like it like circles back to being like fly on the wall.
Yes. It's like at that point, like I love to call it a panopticon, which for any new listeners, it's the idea that there's a constant consciousness of being surveilled. So like, even if you don't see what's watching you, you know what's happening. At that point, like, is it just that they've so integrated that knowledge that they forget, or that they don't care, or they have adapted themselves, their consciousness, that it's the new normal? You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
But it's like, how does that change you? You know?
For sure.
Like, yes, then we're probably getting something actually more authentic in a way, but their version of authentic.
And there's like a whole authentic underneath that has been lost.
Right. Because I don't know if it's buried. Maybe it's been buried so long that then it's lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It just becomes their new authentic. A very hyper real.
Because like we all know as like regular Joes, the moment when maybe like a great moment's happening that like everyone can kind of collectively unconsciously agree it'd be great to capture this. It'll either be good content to capture this, it'll be good for the memory books to capture this, but the moment that someone does it and the camera comes out, even if you're able to kind of keep the vibe, there's still the knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a good way of describing it.
But like they've lost that. And it's like, is that a virtue? Is that a strength? Is it a terrible, terrible loss? You know what I mean? I'd rather be curious than like necessarily like deep down, like, yes, I think it's a loss, but like it's still interesting to explore without judgment, you know?
Really, for sure. Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, what number are you on now?
1436.
Okay, I'm on 1520. I think it's actually good that we're checking in openly about this so that people listening can kind of like scrub through with us.
Like, and going off of that, like when she's talking about, oh, I wanted it to be super intimate, like, does anything feel super intimate at that point?
Right. Given everything we just processed, what does intimate mean?
Oh, because Courtney just said she was talking to Travis about, oh, I want it to be like, I at first wanted to just be us and the 6 kids because I wanted it to be super intimate.
Right.
And it's, what does that really mean? Because obviously we know like it wouldn't be. But unless she's talking about, no, I literally didn't want cameras there and I wanted to do just the kids. But I'm assuming that's not what she means.
I'm assuming she has to know that was never an option. But I also think, I do believe, but then it's like, what can we ever believe? It gets back to the line that I have about not psychoanalyzing them. Like, but it seems like she lived long enough before fame to have some kind of sincere value of a certain kind of privacy, even though she fully participated in being the archetype of the outsider so that there could be conflict. And like, you know, she was in reality shows before the Kardashians came on. So like, I both buy and don't buy Kourtney's positioning of herself sometimes in the brand. But the point is, it does sort of seem like she and Travis really enjoy being parents and do have like fully developed family lives like within the simulacrum, you know, and like they seem to share that value together, which is part of what makes them, even though I think everyone's pretty over the PDA and like the fanfare, I think that's where they still have people's respect, which gets back to the fundamental formula of the Kardashian and their power. The Kardashians is like all this like crazy behavior and like crazy like consumerism and like, you know, shameless self-mediation, but like at the end of the day what matters most is family. So like they kind of, the Kravis dynamic does also in a way mimic that there's always the balancing of like a sense of a real value system. But all that to say, they're a big Brady bunch, so like intimate, they probably do have their own inner world that would be intimate without cameras. You know. For sure. And his kids seem uncomfortable enough still with the cameras that they sort of know life without him.
They do. Yeah, you sense the different, you can feel the different relationship everyone has with the camera.
Yes. Now there's a whole crowd watching the restaurant. I like that they showed the crowd for some reason.
Well, I'm pausing. There's always, in the Kardashians, there's, especially as they got bigger and in the later seasons, they got way more like referential and like just factual about like the like reality of the paparazzi and the fans and like all of that. They've always made sure to like show that. And at first it was like image building in the earlier seasons, and now it's just like part of the reality.
Yeah.
So yeah. And like, but they're still really intentional about it. Like they didn't need to include the like the staff of the restaurant taking a picture because it was such a big night at the restaurant that they were there.
I didn't process that.
That's what I figured.
Whoa. Good eye. That's the other thing too. Again, say what you will about the Kardashians. They are used as a metric of greatness or value. Like, even people, I should really pay attention when this happens so that I can cite it as a more specific example. But I've heard people that love to shit on the Kardashians, love to denigrate them, will still sometimes say like, no, it's a really really well-known restaurant. The Kardashians have been there. Or like, it's a really great spa, like, you know, whatever Kardashian went there once. Like it's still it's still used for context in that way. Right. Like, it's still presidential somehow, or royal somehow, like whether you like them, you voted that person in or not, you know, but people, even their haters will like can't help but sometimes make those comparisons. So yeah.
There wasn't going to be anyone in the town.
Look at the town. He's like the fucking town. Oh, and then they keep on talking about the town in the black and white scene too.
Yeah, you're never like fully oriented, I think, when it's like just simply like you're a tourist. So it's like, it's such a broad way to like refer to a place, like the town. We're going to the town. We're going into town.
Yeah, because you don't live there. You don't know what they fucking call it.
Right.
1813.
To the town.
I'm at 1815, yeah.
How do people, they're talking about how much chaos it was that night and that the town was empty beforehand and the town and the town and the town. But like, how do people like know, oh, they're going to have the rehearsal dinner that night and then like people flock to the town?
Well, I don't know. I think that a lot of people would say that they plant it, but I also think and granted, to plant it would make sense because that creates activity for this otherwise like completely void of conflict story. But it's also possible like European towns are small, you know, like I think it travels, you know.
Totally in the town.
Wait, will you pause? So I'm at 2338 where they're like, or 2238,
cool.
Where they're like, we're at the wrong place. And it's another case of like them being these incredibly powerful people who are engaging in this like elaborate content producing machinery that they have set up for themselves. But if they're directed wrong, if they're shepherded wrong, they're so vulnerable. Like they're at the wrong place and it's chaos because something went wrong with like the logistics of the curated schedule.
Yeah, of like the setting. Like,
yes.
Like it's like a theater production and like the wrong set came out.
Yes. And that brings me to something that we were talking about the last time in the beginning of the episode that we kind of forgot to cover this time, which is with all their with all their references to other great love stories and backdrops to great love stories, like our crazy Vegas moment that's supposed to probably feel like Clarence and Alabama and True Romance. They have the resources to set up that lived experience for themselves, and then they step into the moment, but it's fully curated, but it's also so complete that they probably do get to feel it, but it's so synthetic. Like, especially with Vegas, because it's such a high sensory. Vegas is designed to give people that feeling, which I love about Vegas.
For sure.
But the Santa Barbara, like, they probably caught a vibe, even if it was sheerly for pictures, but like, that is so existential and weird. I don't have a judgment of it to make besides, I don't know, it's the main thing I think about with them, actually. The construction of moments.
But that's like there's like a common man version of doing that too. That's like kind of what we do and like parties in cities are like manufactured to be that way now, and like, you know, so it is kind of just like the model of how we exist now.
Their scale is a different scale, but like we're pursuing that on Instagram all the time. And even the big question, like with art, like what are we doing to art at this point? Like these Van Gogh exhibits where like you're immersed by the images and there are these light shows out of the paintings, and like there's conversations among like real art people that are like, we hate it, or like we're cool with it. Like, I don't know how I feel. I haven't made it to those shows, but I'd like to go, you know.
In that regard with the art, I think it's kind of interesting. It's a new way to experience it.
Yeah.
It's getting even closer up to the painting.
It's heightened because we also need that now to
right.
Like truly, like we need the high sensory experience.
It never ends. until we're
like
it.
Right.
We are the image.
Right. They are fulfilling that within them. I think that's the idea. I think, okay, that's so interesting. I think that's what makes it kind of big to think about in the context of the Kardashians, that yes, we will go with our partners and our cute little outfits and maybe stage a photo that feels cinematic. Lee and I are all about the Tarantino vibes. We're that couple for sure. We like it when it feels that way, I think. She'd probably hate me to hear me saying that, but I'm going to own it. But at the end of the day, it's a staged photo or it's a look or it's like a night out. But they are living their cinematic couple moments in a way that feels like maybe like real time extended, maybe not 24/7, but like they're living the Starry Night light show all around you in the like a lot. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because they can afford that like level of curation or access.
Totally.
I like the voice. Now they're outside the gelato place and some voice goes, "Why did you lick her face?" And that's like everyone that like represents all of us.
It's like an IRL comment.
Yeah. It's like the comment section brought to life.
Yeah. There's so much emphasis on these little mothering moments.
Yes.
Like really, really subtle ones, all episodes. Yep. But like they really make sure to include them.
You're so right.
And I don't think I'm not saying that the Kardashians themselves are doing it like for the camera, but like in the edit, they've made sure to include those moments captured.
There's such a consciousness. Yes. Like it was a decision to put it in there for sure. I mean, for some reason, I get bored by the motherhood is essential to the Kardashian brand conversation. But the fact of the matter, because I'm not interested, I don't think at this point in my life in motherhood, but it's like, why do I ignore that? Because I'm not interested in it. Like they're a matriarchy. It is interesting. And we don't see matriarchy position in powerful in such a place of power that way ever. If it's a patriarchy thing. And I've always felt that motherhood and emphasizing these maternal moments are like compensating for their power in a way, like showing a softness. But anyway, it's interesting. And you know how the new Kim being an American Horror Story thing is, it's like a story about a girl that wants to be a mom. And so like, that's going to be subverting the motherhood, like theme.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Which only goes to show us how vital they're aware of its vitality to their brand.
Right.
Yeah. You don't need a pause, but I'm just going to like mute as it goes. I'm at 26:48, by the way.
Okay.
For some reason, it like freaked me out that they were, unless I like misunderstood, but like this like photo shoot in a monastery or like in a church, like they're going to get to it, I guess, of like Travis being like, doesn't have as many bells and whistles as the other church or whatever he says. Like that freaked me out. And like, I don't know if it's as a former Catholic or what. Yeah, I love that it doesn't have the bells and whistles of the other churches. And I'm kind of like, that's not what it's there for. I don't agree with what it's there for, but it's not what it's there for. Oh, look at he's doing a we're like watching Travis pose in the church and we see his internal decisions of like how to stand and like the Solon pose he does. Good for them getting Ellen von Unworth though. Like I don't know shit about fashion, as I always like disclaim, like as a disclaimer say to people, but like even as like a young girl, I was a fan of her work. I like her style.
What is it? Fashion?
She's a fashion photographer, but she has these very like electric, but also like ethereal. Her approach is to me like electric and ethereal is the words that come to mind. And she's kind of perfect for these images.
I'm like literally setting up a set.
Yeah, that's all this is. It's all it is a production, mediating production. And it's like the scale and quality of the images sort of like earn it. These aren't nothing. They aren't failures of images. They're not nothing images.
But it's for Instagram.
Yes. Dude, they're so important to Instagram. They fulfill like the potential of the medium. They model the potential of the medium at its most maximum. Like, yeah.
Totally. And they're getting directed. These photos are being directed, not by them. It's not like, okay, let's go in this corner now. It's like she's being like, okay, and then he'll go down the stairs.
I think that's what we really can take away from this is like they are the talent, they are the content, they show up, they actualize a moment, but the moment is still constructed by a bunch of other people that like maybe are aware of the mood boards they came to the table with, maybe, but like their job is to catch a vibe and to like go where they're told. I don't know if I'd like that with my partner. You want it because being in love is a creative act. Like it has to be more than just like,
unless it's just fun, like little dates.
True, but it's supposed to be an expression of something within the two of you that you're making together. I think. I don't know. I to be fair, like
I think these things are like created around them and their interests and stuff too.
But it's still, yeah. But like, yeah, I guess it's like a threshold or like a spectrum, I guess. Like, how much of it needs to be like, did they do the work of like being like, we like true romance, we like old Italian movies, and then it's delivered to them, and that's a fun privilege to have, or is there a loss in that as well?
Where are you?
Oh, I've been having it on mute as it played, so I'm at 30:52.
It's so fucking aristocratic.
To pass on a ring.
No, just the whole. I'm at 33:38. Just like the whole situation, like having like the designer of like one of the most famous fashion houses in the world, just like be like, this is such an honor, and then you're like, wherever this is, and it's like this, like it's just like,
yeah,
so aristocratic.
I was about to say, like, wow, it actually is like the peak that it can get. It's like what everything you just said. And then I was going to say, like, but it's funny, people now are saying the Kardashians are over when they have really like crossed so many thresholds in the past few years. But that is why. It's a response to that. It's like the only natural response is to try to take it down or deflate it, because I'm sure there's an anxiety too about like how much fucking bigger can this get? Maybe if we collectively like say it's not real, then it won't be anymore. Notice how she said tipsy and not drunk.
Yeah, for sure.
They always soften it when it's like edgy things like drinking or like a fight. It's like they always like give it a polish. I like the gendered part of this of like Courtney's nervous in her like maiden's den with all her ladies, and the boys are gonna jump in the ocean, but like Landon is so not like up for it. I'm at 37:17, so just let it roll.
Do you want to come jump real quick? Landon's like, what?
You're right.
He's like crawling in like a hesitant cat.
Yeah.
So crazy. Say like Mark Hoppus at this.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the thing also, I think the way it works in LA, it's like they were in a pop punk band, great pop punk little band, more than little band, whatever. They were great. But once you get a certain level of success where you're like counting your millions in Hollywood for whatever genre or like story that led you to that point, then it's like fucking fair game that anything's possible. And like Travis Barker could be like this boy from Fontana that is now like doing like a wedding fairy tale special with Dolce & Gabbana, and like his old bandmates are going to come, and like they're all aware that anything's possible. You know what I mean? Like it's the same soup. It's all the same soup once you get into that like bowl.
Yeah, once you go Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And there's still different flavors. It's like, sure. I always think about Courtney Love, like in her appearance on the Osbournes, where it's like, I know and love Courtney Love as like a fan of, and like the whole history of like the Courtney Love vibe and like the grunge era and the Riot Girls and like all of that. But at the end of the day, she's like still Courtney Love, but in like a Hollywood mansion running barefoot with her dogs all around her on the Osbournes. And like that also has a logic to it, you know?
It like, and it becomes like the imagery of the aesthetic still.
Yes.
Just like scaled.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Machine Gun Kelly. Oh, there she is, baby. There she is. She looks like a Kardashian.
Who, Megan Fox?
Yeah.
She's like nervous.
Totally. I'm sure a lot of people were nervous there. It's not like a chill wedding.
No.
Unless it is a thing of like no one parties like the Kardashians party. Like maybe like there's nerves of the status element of it for everybody, but then like there's also kind of like there's got to be a reason that people like hang out with them.
Right.
Although I guess clout is a big reason. I don't know.
But there's probably a comfort once you've like made it into the circle, even if for that night.
They are that blood in, blood out. They don't like how it looks when things go bad. So like they're gonna make it work because it's not gonna.
Right. Wait, I had another question too.
Wait, I'm gonna pause. I'm at 39:51.
It's like nervousness. It's like she was the it girl of like a different time, and they like have completely transcended the model she like helped create and had an era of.
Well, when that was all happening, like when like Megan Fox was like did the Skims ad with Courtney and Skims like stamps it like because like they were hanging out a lot because the aesthetics matched, and then Skims was kind of like documented like this is that moment happening now. Like these are two it couples that are double dating a lot, and you guys like that. But a lot of people were like, oh, well, the Kardashians have always been trying to be Megan Fox, and like that was kind of like a revisionist narrative. And it's kind of like the Kardashians have been trying to be everybody and nothing at the same time. Like that's, but a lot of people would not like that idea that Megan Fox is like attaching herself to Kardashian clout, because she does have the respect of like the nostalgia, but the fact of the matter is it still is a nostalgia.
Right. Same with who?
Paris Hilton too.
Yeah. You're at 39 what?
40:02 now. You know what's also funny is that like Courtney was so nervous, even though she's had about like 5,000 rehearsals already with like their previous weddings.
Totally.
And I guess the nerves are really more the high level of the production.
Yes, exactly. That's the sense I got too.
Yeah. And also like anxiety at this point is the only narrative conflict they can have too. Anxiety, like stamped anxiety.
Also though, do not all the kids come?
Oh, true.
Where is Rob? Because obviously Rob would be at that, right?
They protect Rob or they hide him. What depends on how you want to view it. And then you're right. I am only seeing North. North is like the representative.
And that's kind of crazy too. That just like if everyone is there, it's like how do they manage to not get some people in the frame?
Oh, I'm sure there's there's blocking. I'm sure there's like this person will be at this table. You know what's interesting about that? I'm sorry, we have to pause.
Where are you?
I'm at 42 even. So Kim is like yelling across the noise in a very explicit, very like simplistic, like when I was in Italy, my train was so long and so I had to walk fast, and so you just have to walk fast. And like I think that gave us insight into like really how she processes things and how she also gets through with like the chaos and like the like hypermediation of her life, which is just like very here and now. Like she was taking us on a play-by-play of like what it was like in real time, and then like they defined it for her like, okay, so what you're saying is walk slow, but like she was like back in it almost.
And it's crazy because it's like what a like performance-based memory to have of it. It's not like internal, like I was like with every step I took, I was nervous. Is this what I really want? Or what? It wasn't an emotional process. It was like, this is how you should stage it so that you don't trip, and you wouldn't want to trip during the like big performance, like
yes, it is it goes back to the idea that Courtney's nervous because this is different than the other weddings. This is a sponsored wedding, and it's like a big scaled like and expensive thing, and the walking up the aisle is like her big monologue.
Yeah, like the stakes are super high.
Yes, that it stages right. And like it was a wisdom that Kim was sharing, but it was so much just about basically how her body was moving through space and time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. It's so funny. We can like keep talking about this all goes. How everyone, I never did, but like MGK and Megan Fox were considered cool and hot. And now all these couples are considered corny and overplayed.
Totally.
Oh, Bright Eyes is playing. This is the classic like indie wedding song. This song will get me every time.
It evokes something, but it's like the scenery is so not like indie movie.
No, this is a folk song basically. It's an indie folk song.
Hot glam situation.
I'm at 44:17.
Oh, perfect.
And also, which one is? We've only seen one of the Dolces or the Gabbanas this whole time.
I have no idea who's who or what I'm looking at.
I don't know which one he is, but like it's funny that like he's like the like representative for the Kardashian like
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the boat's honking.
I know.
The wedding just started honking all these boats. And I think it's like a congratulations. It was so cool. It was so cool.
It's like looks like a fashion show almost, like the way they like are looking. They're the way
they're sitting like a fashion show.
Yes.
They're rows. It's like a front row. Everyone knew what the fucking deal was. No one knew. This wasn't a hosted event. This was a sponsored, branded event, and everyone knew. See, this is the thing. Actually, I should talk about this with Kardashian Data Coalition. Like, how many public appearances were there by the guests of this wedding wearing Dolce & Gabbana following their participation as guests in this wedding? You know what I mean? Because they were obviously like VIP guests, basically, to a private fashion show.
Totally. And they all had to wear Dolce & Gabbana, right?
Probably.
I assume that everyone was dressed in Dolce & Gabbana all weekend.
Yeah. I'm guessing. Right? Probably. Yeah. You can't show up in your own like outfit from your closet to something like this. Is the priest in Dolce & Gabbana?
Dude, it's crazy they're not mic'd.
Yeah, that's nice. But the priest is mic'd. That's funny.
That was a production choice. That was a choice. And it like adds a certain like dissonance. Like it creates an intimacy to their moment.
Yes, I love that you're pointing that out. Yeah.
Oh my God, that makeout.
The kisses are part of the Kravis like they have different ones they go to that they reach for the kisses. In every medium we've seen of these different weddings have been like, this is like a film reel style, which is still very Instagram. Santa Barbara was like stories, like it was verticals. Mm-hmm. And then Vegas was like iPhone, like just like in your camera roll.
Yeah.
I have no concept because of like the nature of what I'm doing with this project, and probably maybe you as well. Tell me what you think. I have no concept of what the enjoyment is if you're not being Kardashian colloquium or like analyzing it. Like I'm curious to ask people whenever we put this out, like, what did you enjoy about it? What made you want to watch it? Like, what did you get out of it? You know, of all these different.
Specific.
Yeah, because I'm like, what I got out of this was like visual stimuli. And then being like, oh damn, like so this is what they're producing now, like as like a high scale luxury brand now.
Right.
But like,
yeah, when as somebody who's invested in the storylines and all of that, like what did you get out of it?
Yeah. Is it just like Kourtney's found her happy ending and it's really pretty? Oh, it's bad. And the fact of the matter is, like, there probably is some dark shit with like Travis's dad, but we don't hear the story because they don't feel they need to give that to us to make us watch anymore. They're able to give us like this level of shit, and it's kind of like you get what you get and you don't get upset. Like, you know what I mean?
For like, sure.
Smaller scale, trying to make it, you're shilling your fucking traumas, but now they don't have to.
Exactly. It can just be flashy, like ocean clothes.
Yeah.
Food. Yeah.
I just remembered the main thing I wanted to get out of you during this conversation. Tell me what you know about genre in a film studies context. I'm so sorry, but I need to know because every wedding was a different genre. So tell me about genre, please.
Oh my God. What I remember, I really can't like explain much, right? Like not even right now, like what I'm like grasping at from my memory of my film seminar, like senior year, very many years ago, is like the way to learn about genre. Like we literally like learned the concepts, like the linguistic concepts of like semantics and
semiotics.
I'm
obsessed with semiotics.
Which semiotics are really like the language of imagery. There's like kind of like a linguistic framework to like understand genre. Like it can look a certain way. So it has like the semiotics, it has what it looks like, and then it has what it represents.
Like conventions kind of thing?
Yeah, and they're a roadmap for how you're supposed to relate to the people on camera. And the story it's telling. Like a Western is telling a certain story or a set of morals or whatever. Like horror is all about like it's set to like it's illuminating a certain like relationality we have to good and evil.
Yeah.
You know, with the way like you're supposed to relate to the killer, but then like also the victim, and like there's all, and I'm butchering it, but there's all sorts of things to say about like perspective and point of view and like horror movies and in the horror genre. Like, I barely have any authority to like say any of this, but this is what I like retained and kind of like interpreted what I learned in my film seminar.
I think it's fucking awesome that you ended up doing that. I know you felt regret at the time, but it's like, I'm out here learning all the shit later that you learned then. And I'm like, I wish I fucking studied this shit and I wasn't a film girl. It's so cool. Film theory is like a fucking philosophy of life.
No, for sure. It is fucking cool. I'm glad I have it under my belt so that I can know that it's something I want to revisit now that I'm like of sound mind, which like I couldn't be considered that in college.
It's crazy being in college. Like,
no one should be in college when they're typically in college.
No, totally. I just realized as you were talking that Kim's wedding, and that's what she was talking about when she was giving Courtney her like train advice, like, oh, the train goes by fast or whatever. I think that was also Kim inserting herself a little bit because Kim's wedding was also in Italy. They situated as Kim had a fairy tale wedding in Italy. And what's interesting about that is A, they're both in Italy. So how do they distinguish them? B, Kim's was a fairy tale wedding with a very like romantic era aesthetic.
Yeah.
Breezier, Florence, different, not like a dramatic, deeper Southern Italy look. And notably, Kim and Kanye cut the cameras. We saw Kim kind of approach the aisle, but she doesn't. You don't see anything else. The after party, the vows, and that. This was fully captured, more dramatic, literally sponsored wedding. I don't know. It's like they leaned into it. They went over the top and have hyper mediated their relationship in like a different way with a different aesthetic. But it's like that could have been too close. The Kardashians don't necessarily like to be that close with their archetypes.
No, true. Maybe they've just leaned into it because they're like, listen, it kind of enables. Clearly, there's pressure to like still be in it, and like this kind of enables us to like do what we do still while giving like them content.
And if we go so big that there's like 5 trillion weddings, there's a Vegas wedding, a Santa Barbara wedding, an Italy wedding, and probably going to be, I bet they're going to like get married every year kind of thing, right. Or like renew their vows, like some shit. Like they probably were like one Italy wedding, even if it's a really big one, amid all of that is more like the it's going to be the sum of its parts eventually.
Right. And that'll be their thing. It's just like,
right.
It's a way to like create longevity with like whatever the thing is. And like they knew that like Kim and Kanye had a lot more to offer. And so like they were able, and it not only was it like a dramatic production choice to cut it off and leave you wanting more for like that wedding special, but like they have other stuff to keep the story going.
Right. Kim and Kanye have shored up, we'll say, in every avenue of pop culture without having to be like, we're true romance. That's our thing. We ran away to Vegas. Kim and Kanye literally were everybody at once.
Oh,
that pasta.
The pasta looks good, but I remember even seeing the pictures of this on Instagram and being like, give me more pasta.
Yes.
That's an acceptable amount of pasta.
Yes. Oh, Muppets just gave a speech, and it's back to what you just said, like, going Hollywood, baby. Like, very poised, well stated speech.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's also crazy, like, the difference between their speeches. Like, theirs was like, you look so good.
Yeah, totally.
So amazing.
Wait, I'm pausing it because I want to hear Chris MC it. So I want to talk about this and then see how Chris MC's shit. No, totally. They were... At a certain point, like, do you even feel the sister support when it's said in such a curated, like, simplistic way? But I have to think they all know that it has to do with the cameras and there's, like, deep depth beyond it, maybe?
Totally. For sure.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's so funny knowing that they're, like, doing such a mediated speech, and then like with the contrast of Mark Hoppus just being like, we've been friends for 25 years, like,
because he's also not like regularly giving speeches. Like he's poised in like Hollywood enough now to like give a well stated speech, but it's also not like every fucking week they're giving speeches at the table for their episodes, you know?
No, for sure. But like he's also just not trying to create a story. He's a Hollywood man. It's a Hollywood man speech, but like it's like a real speech because
yes,
doing it for the show.
And when we saw him stand up, we knew we were going to get something more like that. We were like, what's he going to say?
Okay, where are you?
I'm at 1:01:35.
Oh, perfect.
Travis is giving a speech. He seems genuinely nervous. And I think actually the thing about Travis that brings his value to the family system is not only whatever his personal values are that they like and how he fits in, just whatever their own lives are. It's for the viewer. Even though Travis is a businessman that I think very much understands their whole enterprise, he does fulfill that like man in the Kardashian sphere role of bringing something raw and real. So with Scott, it was Scott's alcoholism and like bringing like chaos that you could never predict, and like you can't fake some of that alcoholic chaos behavior. And with Travis, like his shaking hand as he's reading his speech, and like Courtney like impulsively kissing him to like chill him out, like those are the moments of the real that the puncture the hyper real of the whole thing.
For sure.
And like that does get through to a viewer. I mean, like, I guess in the age-old thing, I always used to explain, like, the reason I was drawn to this work in the beginning was, like, this balance of hyper-reality and reality that the show would give, where it's, like, what's real, what's staged, that felt really real, that felt really weird. And I guess back to our conversation earlier about, like, what are people getting out of this that aren't seeking to analyze it? Maybe it's more of that feeling. Like, if there's enough of that, which Travis brings and moments between him and Courtney can bring, I'm sure that still is, it's a weird liminal space to just be in with them while being inundated with cool imagery, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Also, the first person he names in his speech is Chris.
Dude, it's insane. His kids just went like second to last, dude. All of the Kardashian kids first.
That's so true. And I don't doubt that he like is a good dad and loves his kids, but it's like very mafia. It's very mafia. You got to kiss the ring.
Yeah. Totally. Because also you can't go from Chris to then his kids. It's like you got to do the whole thing Chris created then.
Yes, exactly.
In your town. He said, thank you for welcoming me into your home in your town.
In your town. Oh. They love the town. There's more we could say about the town and Baudrillard or something.
Well, dude, because it's just like the town is just like a cardboard, like
it's the Truman Show. It's like the Truman. It's like the room where he's like sailing on the sea.
Yes, and that's like the outskirts of the town.
Yes. You know what it is too? I'm gonna pause. This is why they have such noticeable enthusiasm for the town. Beyond the relatable human fact of like when you're a tourist, it's just you're going to town, especially I feel like. But it's also that because they need to be, this is like an overstretched theory, but like I'm just gonna have fun with it. Because we've learned they need to be directed into all their little like sets. The town, like just referring to it as a town, having a town is like a way to find comfort in the idea that there is a backdrop, a controlled backdrop. This is the backdrop. This is the town. This is how we orient ourselves in this new setting. Yes! You know what I mean?
Dude, totally. Like there's a scenery beyond the scenery.
Yes.
There's a base reality in like the simulation.
But they are like watching like Sims. It's like the like Sims are genuinely in love, you know? Oh, look, MGK get down.
Oh my God, he's literally like Greg from Succession.
Yeah, yes.
Like that's who MGK really is inside.
For fucking sure.
Tattoos and the whole fucking thing, just so you don't feel like Greg from Succession.
Oh, who's the guest on the spot? Landon is now giving his speech. He's nervous. Everyone's telling him to slow down. And you're right, Marie, that this is the Barker side moment. Like they're giving it to them.
And they knew that they needed to do that. Just like from a PR perspective.
Yes.
You believe it kind of does sound like they are welcoming.
And to integrate to like make the kids feel really part of it.
Megan Fox looks miserable.
Yeah, she does. You know what? For all we know, I'm gonna pause. I'm at 1:10:35. For all we know, she fucking really was beyond just like not getting to eat pasta in Italy. Like that, for all we know, she and MGK were not doing well or whatever. They don't seem like they're actually doing that great. Like, but who's gonna miss this?
Totally.
You know,
that too, and also the fact that like a wedding speech. I mean, everyone is nervous giving a wedding speech, but like the fact that like it's no small task for MGK to like do a performance that night or like like for like a little Landon to make a speech. Like everyone's very aware of how many eyes are going to see this.
It's like oh shit, you haven't seen the new Succession. Oh my God, I almost gave you a huge spoiler. For the listeners who haven't seen the episode, I'm thinking of a thing that Kendall says about like what we do today will always be the thing we did this day. So it's kind of like at this thing, it's like what we do, how we act is like how will be documented and remembered of like how this went down on the day of like the Kravis wedding.
Like,
yes.
It's like a moment in history now. Wow.
It charmed me by the end for sure. Without final scene of them dancing to all the Blink songs. I still don't know that we're really getting enough substance anymore to attach ourselves, but I'm curious if like fans still feel attached. The liminal space maybe that we're in with them of like real staged is something. Travis brings a lot of value to the family in this way.
You're good at the takeaways.
And yeah, it's all just BTS to very rapidly produced but highly stylized social media imagery, because that's the central commodity anyway.
Yeah,
more the narrative.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I think TikTok culture has put a new onus on interiority. And the Kardashians can't provide that, and that's like the gap everyone keeps talking about. But please let us know in the comments like what you got out of it. And like, I don't mean for all of, I feel like we simultaneously were at times critical of the Kardashians, and then at other times were like affirming of like the beauty of what they've produced and like whatever. And so this is a safe space to share what you love and hate about what you watched.
Here of us?
Yeah. No. Oh. Well, to the listener.
Season, take your best shot, everybody. We're on Substack. You pay to be here, so fucking just murder me. Like that Frida Kahlo painting where she's the deer and it's all the arrows. Yeah, we did it.
We did it. All right, everyone. Bye, Sissy. Love you.
Love you.